Good evening, good people. Welcome to the No Kings 2.0 Mass Call. I'm so grateful that you're here. Get comfortable. This is a perfect opportunity to tell a friend on socials, a text thread, an email thread that you are here and that you want them to come and join you. We had over 10,000 people just waiting to watch while we were doing our sound and visual checks. So thank you all for being early, for being present. I'm so excited to talk to you about what we just did, to hear from credible leaders that you can trust about what the conditions are now and what we must do next. Y'all knew that just our mass mobilization wasn't going to be the end of this love story, that there was still more to do to see the work of making sure there are no kings in America through to fruition. So I know that's why you're here tonight. So make sure that you invite other folks to come and join us too. I am Ashley Woodard Henderson. I'm going to be your host this evening. I want to say hey to everybody that's watching on social media, for the folks that are watching on YouTube, for the people that are going to watch this after we're not live on the recording. We are recording this call. You will have access to it on YouTube, and you're going to get it in the follow-up emails. You're going to get this recording, and you're going to get all of the links to the calls to action. So all you have to do tonight is be present. And if you can catch the links, feel free to. Y'all, the chat is turned off tonight because there's so many people, and we want to make sure that you get to focus in on the incredible stories and information that's going to be shared with you tonight. But as always, you can chat with us on Blue Sky or any of the socials that you use. All you have to do is use the hashtag No Kings. So again, hashtag No Kings if you want to opt into an online conversation. If you tag me, I'll see it quicker too. So listen, we're going to have plenty of words spoken at you tonight. And it's going to be important, but we know that seeing it, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words, might actually give us a bigger idea of what we just accomplished. Let's see what we just made happen. Y'all, we did that. You did that. 7 million people, our neighbors, our friends, our community did that. Over nearly 30, 70 some odd partner organizations from all over the country, from massive base building organizations to teeny tiny community defense groups. Y'all, we did that. And if you haven't seen it, I want you to go to nokings.org/partners. Again, I want you to take a second, pull out your phones. If you're on your laptop, go to nokings.org/partners. And I want you to scroll through that list. And when you scroll through that list, I want you to see the partners, the people, the hosts, the safety leads, the marshals, the media mavens, the staff, the volunteers, the elders, the youth, the first timers, the old heads, every single one of us that made this historic moment happen. And I want you to just take a moment to think about them and say thank you. Because together, against all odds, against all difference, we did that. We made it happen. And I don't know. I've heard a lot of chatter. I've read a lot of chatter about like, oh, well, like what's one march going to do? Well, I want to tell a little bit of a different story really quickly because not only was it not just a march, we didn't even just start there. Y'all remember because some of y'all were with us when we were doing We Are Worth Fighting For gatherings in our communities and just bringing our neighbors together to make meaning of the moment and build up a community, right? It's a practice. It's not just a place, right? So some of y'all were there, and then some of y'all then activated again when we did hands-off rallies all over the country and made history together then. And then some of y'all were there with us in June when we did No Kings 1.0. And even that wasn't enough. So you went back to your communities, you got trained on non cooperation, and we wove together more and more relationship, more and more skill sets that we could share across the country at No Kings 2.0. And we know our work isn't done yet. That big moment of visibility also was matched by a daily grind of people of goodwill that were willing to build across difference for the sake of stopping the tyranny in this country. And let's not forget, Republicans just spent millions upon millions of dollars trying to smear this moment, this movement. They lied about you. They told people that y'all were hateful. They took you and your communities and said so many unbelievable, unfathomable lies about what you believe. And you took that spin and turned it into something viral and profound. You showed folks who haven't been with us, those who really are harming this country, and you showed those who have been with us that we're building the resistance it takes to win. It's no small thing what you just did, and it's not over yet. It's not going to end here. If you're someone who's been thinking about that 3.5% of people that we have to sustain in movement, this was a huge, a gigantic step in the right direction by the tune of millions of people. And you know how I know we're going to get there? It's because this actually wasn't just about one big day. Y'all know that because we've been saying that. And the stories that you all have shared with us and the report backs that you've sent to our back end teams, you've told us stories about how you've grown, how you've built new alliances, that you connected this day of demonstration to community defense efforts and local advocacy actions, how you've brought in hundreds and thousands of people in your communities who were previously not in the streets. You're strong. You're skilled. And together, we're ready for what's next, y'all. You have everything you need in your bones to be prepared to make history in this moment. You might be hearing folks say, what's one day of protest do? Or what about that sustained action over time that you're always talking about, Ashley? Or where's all the energy going to go? Was it just a one and done? Y'all, what I've seen is that this is a movement that's committed to answering precisely those questions, but they can only be answered with your leadership. We're going to weave together the big days of action and the humble, unglorious, unglamorous, deeply necessary movement building, the civil resistance, the acts of non cooperation that need to happen on every single day between now and the next No Kings. I know you're with me. All right, y'all, let's get to it. I promise we're going to tell you what's next. I promise I'm going to give you some concrete calls to action. But we also have to acknowledge how we got here and what we've done. Stick with us. I promise we're going to get to the calls to action. But I first want to hear the opinion of my good friend. Y'all heard him in DC introduce himself as Leah's husband. He's also Ezra Levin, who you know very well, the co-founder and co-executive director of Indivisible. I'm going to pass it to him to talk a little bit more about the meaning that we're making from this movement. Ezra, it's so good to see you.
Great to see you, Ash. And I am mostly known as Leah's husband, and it's great to be here on her behalf. Look, I have to say, I'm damn proud to be here on behalf of Indivisible because I know thousands of Indivisible leaders all across the country hosted a good number of the 2,700 events all around the country. But I'm even more proud that this was not an indivisible thing. As you said it, there were nearly 300 partners out there that helped make this the largest peaceful protest in American history. I'm going to say those words a lot over the next 4 minutes. Largest peaceful protest in American history. Grassroots groups like Move On, 5051, good government groups, ACLU and Public Citizen, unions like AFT and SEIU. You're going to hear from a lot of those folks right after this, which is personally a good thing for me because they're all tough acts to follow. But I want to talk a little bit about, Ash, what you said. We need to recognize what we did here. We're going to talk about what we do. We're all about what we can actually do. But some of this is a rah, rah, rah call on purpose because a hallmark of authoritarianism is it makes you feel like shit on a daily basis. That's what it does. And so, in that environment, during this authoritarian breakthrough moment, celebrating success is an act of defiance. We refuse to be driven into depression and fatalism by these bastards. We're not going to let them do it. So, bear with me a sec. How did Saturday go for you? Was it incredible? Yeah. Was it enormous? Yes. Was it life-giving? Hell yeah. Did it restore my faith in American democracy? Well, here's what I'll say. It gave me some real hope. It gave me some real hope. I'm not going to tell you what to feel, but I'll tell you what I felt. I'll tell you what I saw. And I saw it in that montage that we just saw, in those videos and those pictures. Joy and power, again and again and again, all over the country. And I'll tell you how the historians are going to describe it. I've said it already because it's true. The largest peaceful protest in American history. If you're sitting in a room somewhere by yourself, if you're in a big group, if you're watching this in a bar, don't feel awkward about it. Say it out loud with me. The largest peaceful protest in American history. That's what we did, y'all. Every single state, every single congressional district. Hell, MAGA Mike Johnson had 11 No Kings protests in his own damn district. John Fetterman, the Democrat currently voting with Republicans to keep the government closed down and raise your health care prices. 86 events in Pennsylvania on Saturday, 90 in Ohio, 101 in Texas, 118 in Washington State, 147 in Massachusetts, nearly 300 in California, y'all. This wasn't blue America. This wasn't red America. This wasn't urban America or suburban America or rural America. This was America. The America everybody on this call believes in all of its diversity, in all of its geography, in unison, saying with one clear voice, we don't do kings here. And this day did not come out of nowhere, y'all. Ash, you mentioned it earlier. We saw the studies that said 3.5% of the population. Erica Chenoweth, Maria Stephan, these scholars in authoritarianism, they say 3.5% engaged in pushing back against the regime. That's enough to turn the tide in the fight against authoritarianism. In the U.S. context, 11 to 12 million. How are we doing? In April, for hands off, 3 million people in 1,300 events. First No Kings Day in June, 5 million people in 2,100 events. On Saturday, 7 million people in 2,700 events. 3 million, 5 million, 7 million. Connect the dots, y'all. Extrapolate out. This regime is on its way down, sinking to its lowest levels of popularity ever, and we're bigger than ever before on our way to the 3.5%. That's what we're doing. And it begs the question, what's next? What do we do next? How do we keep on building? No successful anti-authoritarian movement in the history of the world has relied exclusively on one-day protests, even historic, incredible, life-giving one-day protests like Saturday. Successful movements grow, they evolve, they diversify their tactics, and they do new things together. So yeah, look, there are going to be big mobilizations in our future, but before that, there's going to be overreach from this regime. We're seeing it with our own eyes. They're dominating media institutions. They're dominating universities. They're bullying businesses and political opponents. And we need a coordinated way to respond quickly and powerfully with the full force of this movement. The era of capitulation and obeying in advance, that's over. The No Kings era is here, and it's defined by widespread mass defiance of this regime. That's why this whole coalition, we're launching the No Kings Alliance. This is a nationwide rapid response network built for this moment to coordinate pushback. And this isn't some different organization. We're not selling you anything. We're not asking you for money. That's not what this is. No, keep your organizing home. If you're organizing with a local indivisible, awesome. 5051 chapter, cool. Working Families Party or group of Move On Friends, kick ass. Keep on doing it. Keep your home, build it up. The Alliance is an effort to coordinate the full diversity of our movement and use the leverage that we have with the people power we've collectively built. And look, we're all going to have a role to play. Some of it we're coming together, some of it we're doing it independently. That's healthy, y'all. That is how we actually apply power effectively, quickly, impactfully. At Indivisible, we're talking a lot about boycotts and economic power. We should learn from Disney and ABC and Kimmel. The regime bullied, the institution capitulated, the people rebelled, the institution reversed course, and democracy sat up a little straighter the next day. Is a little bit more confident. Rinse and repeat. This is not about Trump. It's not about the tech fascists or the billionaire backers of this regime. It's not about the cowardly Republican leaders. No, it's about us. It's about what we do together to define where this country goes next. We just pulled off what? Say it with me. The largest peaceful protest in American history, and those fascists are quaking in their jackboots at what we'll do next. They can smear us, they can threaten us, they can lie, they can cheat, they can steal. We will not back down because we pulled off the largest peaceful protest in American history. This is the No Kings era, y'all. We're better than fear. We're braver than billionaires. We're bigger than ever, and we're going to win. Ash.
Ezra tried to tell y'all, for the folks that are wondering what the demand is, it's no kings, it's in the name. And now we're taking this mighty movement and we're putting some infrastructure behind it to make sure that it's sustained until the point is made and final. And it happens because everyday people like y'all are coming forward and saying, like, we want to keep doing this together. I know Indivisibles in the house. Y'all been blowing me up on Blue Sky. I see you, Indivisible Jefferson County, West Virginia. I see you, Indivisible Las Vegas. Y'all the real deal. And all of the rest of you who keep coming, you keep showing up. No Kings is what we are because you are. So thank you, and thank you to Ezra and Leah and the incredible team of Indivisible, all the members and staff. Y'all are amazing. Y'all, next, I am thrilled to bring up Hunter Dunn, National Press Coordinator for the 5051 movement, who's going to talk a little bit about the depth and breadth of where folks showed up this weekend. Hunter, I'll toss it to you.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Hunter Dunn with 5051, and I was one of the organizers at the downtown Los Angeles event this past Saturday. That event was amazing. We had about 100,000 people in downtown LA alone, and much more at 30 events around the county, all coming together in solidarity against Trump's administration, against the actions that they've been taking, especially in greater Los Angeles area, because we were the city that was occupied before the first No Kings. I was there on the ground when David Huerta got arrested on June 6th. I was there on the ground on June 14th, where over 200,000 people gathered together with 5 million people around the country to stand up for Los Angeles. And it was amazing to get the opportunity to do the same thing for cities like Chicago and Portland and DC and Memphis, cities that are facing the same occupation, the same fascism that we faced back in June. But I also want to emphasize how large this coalition is, right? It wasn't just in LA. There were over 20,000 people in Oklahoma, over 200 in a small city called Tahlequah, which had one of my favorite signs and demonstrations, a penguin saying ice belongs in Antarctica. There was even more in Idaho with 21 events. The coalition has never been bigger. We had people left, right, and center, whether they were libertarians, conservatives, centrists, liberals, leftists, all working together, not just at the same protest, but united with having one goal, which was standing up for our country, standing up for the marginalized communities that are under attack by Trump. And what's important is what we can do next, right? Because this was an amazing opportunity, not just to get people out on the streets together, but to get people connected with community groups on the ground. Immigrants' rights coalitions, groups like ACLU that are providing legal support, CHRLA, unions, groups like 5051 and Indivisible and other groups focusing more on protests and mutual aid and other efforts that we can do to stand up against the Trump administration. Those efforts are happening every day around the country. And it's amazing that we had the opportunity to get people connected to those community groups, whether it's the group that I'm a part of, or it's a group that you're a part of, or it's a new group that formed on the day. That's the most important thing, because this isn't just a sprint. It's not even just a marathon. It's a relay race between nationwide mass mobilizations on one hand, and on the other hand, the work that is done every single day in your community.
Y'all show some love for the 5051 fam and for Hunter. Thank you for being with us tonight. And thank you for all of the incredible work that y'all have done to get people mobilized across this country for these meaningful moments. We're so grateful for your leadership, Hunter. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for hosting. This is fantastic.
Absolutely. All right. Y'all show some love to the 5051 fam. And if you are with the team, make sure you make your presence known online and hit us with the hashtag No Kings. Y'all, I promised you that we would give you some words on what's next. And we are lifting up the work that incredible folks did across the country this weekend. And you can't blame me for that. Even the choir needs preaching to sometimes, you know what I mean? But yes, now it is time. It is finally time to answer the question that I have heard 10 million times since Saturday. The question that I have read all over social media all day, every day since we had the largest peaceful protest in American history is what's coming next. So we're going to try to answer some of that because we've always known that since day one, that as important as these symbolic actions have been, as important as these mass saturation events have been, where people can see us being courageous and join us, we know it's not the totality of our work. We never did. But part of that means talking about something that we've been in for a minute now, which is the government shutdown, and learning from one of the best in the work what we can do about it. So to share about that, I'm going to bring up again someone whose face you know, whose voice you know, our dear friend Lisa Gilbert from Public Citizen. Lisa, I'll toss it to you next.
Thanks, Ashley, and hello, everyone. I'm so grateful to be with you all tonight in the wake of the inspiring, impactful, important No Kings rallies. As Ezra said, a lot of times the largest peaceful protest in American history. And I'm here to discuss the state of play of the government shutdown and how we can channel the momentum from this weekend into winning that fight. So I want to start by reminding us all how we got here. As you all probably know, budget battles are one of the few points of leverage that a minority party has, as a 60 vote threshold is required to pass a budget bill in the Senate. So right now, that means 7 Democrats are needed to move any proposal. The backdrop for this fight is the most broken budget moment that we've ever been in. The executive branch is literally cannibalizing the power of the purse. They've been illegally impounding and rescinding funds, which means clawing them back, which means stealing them, which Congress mandated they spend. And there is total clarity from OMB director and Project 2025 architect Russell Vought that they will keep doing this. In addition, as you all know, for months, President Trump and Republicans in Congress have already been shutting the government down little by little, firing workers randomly, withholding funding for cancer research, and taking away healthcare from millions of Americans. And we've also seen a massive, terrifying increase in authoritarian behavior generally. You all know that. That's why we were out this weekend. The administration's been detaining people for political positions, threatening judges, attacking the media, coming at universities and nonprofits, militarizing cities without cause, defying our courts, and sadly, so much more. So the imperative to use this inflection point, to use this leverage that we have effectively to try and win something is crystal clear. So thus far, this budget battle leverage moment is being utilized by Democrats effectively to push for negotiations and an eventual deal that returns healthcare to regular Americans and fights these illegal clawbacks. At the very least, restoring the expiring Affordable Care Act tax credits so millions more don't lose their care. So where are we now? We are at day 21 of the shutdown. It's important to say here that a shutdown is not a good thing. It has real ramifications for regular people. So staying tough within it is hard. It's challenging, and we shouldn't forget that part of the dynamic. And because of that, Democrats need to hear from us that they should continue the fight, particularly as Republicans continue to try and blame them for the shutdown, and as Russ Vought and Trump have begun to punitively fire federal workers, going beyond standard furloughs during the shutdown. There are successful lawsuits slowing those firings down, slowing those tactics down, but it's a harsh threat and intimidation tactic, of course, just par the course for President Trump. So, in response to this threat and these actions, we should all seek to make clear that ending the shutdown doesn't mean averting layoffs. The Trump administration is going to continue to slash federal jobs as they've been doing, despite the questionable legality for the last 9 months. They've fired and doged, I'm going to use that as a verb, people for 9 months before this. So, we have had numerous votes in the Senate on the House passed continuing resolution, which is a bill that would open the government without improving our health care. And in these votes so far, we have lost only a few Democrats. So, thus far, we are doing really well and they are holding the line. But things are going to get harder as the shutdown continues. So, our outside pressure is essential to keep the Dem caucus together and to provide accountability if they start to waver, if they don't stay tough. Again, they only need 7, and this is over. So we all need to do anything we can and everything we can to ensure we win something from this moment, both on our healthcare and on guardrails against future illegal cuts. So, as Ash said, there are things we can do to impact all of this, and we have 2 calls to action. There's a simple thing you can do right now, and there is an easy action for you to sign up to take. First, in the next 24 hours, call your senator's office and leave a message telling them that they should restore healthcare to millions of people and thanking the Democrats for standing strong on the shutdown so far. To do this, text shutdown to 30403, which is a Working Families Power texting line. After you send the text, WFP will ask you to share your state, and then you will automatically connect with your senator's offices. Again, that is text shutdown to 30403, and this should be on your screen. Second call to action. You can sign up to take an easy action organized by Economic Security Project this week to speak out about the Republican healthcare heist. These actions can be as simple as going to your nearby federal building, member of Congress's office, or a healthcare facility, taking a picture and posting it to social media, or your action can be a rally or a press event that you organize for later this week. The link to take action in this way is on your screen, and you'll also receive more information on the types of actions we hope you'll do in a follow-up email, and there'll be an additional call to learn more about this tomorrow night. You can use the link that is on your screen to sign up to take this action right now. So again, the 2 calls to action are: make a call to your senator by texting shutdown to 30403 and sign up to take a very simple action over the next few days using what is on your screen. Again, we need Democrats to stay strong. We need all members and senators to hear what is at stake around our healthcare, and we need to win something from this shutdown leverage moment. And we can. So I want to thank you so much in advance, all of you, for doing whatever you can. And again, I'm just so thrilled to be in this fight with you all, to come out of No Kings together, and to keep winning. So Ash, back to you.
Lisa, thank you so much. So you heard the calls to action. I need you to take your phone out right now. I need you to go to the text messaging app. I need you to text shutdown to 30403. And I mean, seriously, if we're about that life, we should be a part of the Healthcare Heist National Week of Action. It's a strategic moment for us to actually come together and show up and show out for the 22 million people that are going to see their healthcare premiums double and the 4.2 million people that are going to lose coverage, all because they want to prioritize the profit of billionaires over our people. So thank you, Lisa, for calling us in and telling us to get busy about this work. I want to remind you that these are concrete actions that you can take. You can sign up right now. Friends, who of you out there were giving out Know Your Rights cards at your local No Kings event? How many of you have been doing community rapid response? How many of you have been doing the migrant watches or deportation defense? I am so incredibly proud and grateful to bring up Maribel Hernandez Rivera from the ACLU. Y'all know them. They're our mighty, mighty lawyers, who is going to talk about connecting the dots from a small square of paper that you might have passed out at the No Kings event, which definitely, as small as it is, has a mighty impact on people and our ability to do this work, to the urgent work of defending our communities against ICE. Maribel, I'll toss it to you next.
Thank you, Ash, and welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. So yes, let's talk about that small card that tells you your rights. Why is it important? Why is it that we made it a priority? Let me tell you, we know that knowing your rights can help you, one, understand that the law is on our side because the Constitution protects all of us, whether we are documented or undocumented, citizens or not. We are protected by the Constitution. Number two, knowing our rights can help us understand what's going on, can help us understand what to expect, and that way we can decide how we're going to respond. Number three, knowing our rights can help us determine what information we're going to write down, what information we're going to record, so that we can have that information in case there are violations and our lawyers need them. And also, so we can have that information and we can show it to the world how the abuses of power are happening right now in our country. So, in preparation for the largest peaceful protest in American history, we conducted Know Your Rights trainings in English and Spanish. 25,000 people, 25,000 of you attended those trainings. We know that knowledge is power, so we talked about Know Your Rights, but we also talked about practical tips for how to stay safe and how to adhere to nonviolence. Now, let me tell you what's next. We have a resource guide on our website, nokings.org/KYR. Here, you will find one, materials on how to prepare for a protest. So you will see materials for preparing ahead of time, materials for protecting yourself digitally before and after a protest, materials for how to de-escalate and remain safe, and materials for how non-citizen protesters can reduce risk when protesting. So that's one. You also can find Know Your Rights materials, including how to have our protesters' rights, know your rights during an arrest, know your rights after you're released, know your rights if confronted by ICE, and immigrant rights if detained by federal immigration authorities. In addition to that, we have information on how to organize a community response. So you will find information on how to prepare for a rapid response rally, how to organize against ICE in your community, how to respond to federal and National Guard occupation, how to respond to campus repression, and how to advocate to defend the right to protest. Now, we talked about the cards. On our website, you can also find the cards. I have to tell you that prior to the largest peaceful protest in American history, we mailed and shipped 3 million English and Spanish cards to event organizers for distribution at the rallies. I know I saw them, they were there, and what I want you to know is that we also have them on our website and we have them translated in 10 different languages. So just go to nokings.org/card and you can print the cards from there. Now, I want to end by thanking you. Thank you for being part of the movement. Thank you for standing up for communities like mine, immigrant communities who are vulnerable at this moment, immigrant communities who right now are feeling the pain of family separation. Thank you for being there. And I want you to remember, one of the best ways of protecting our rights is by using them. So let's go. Let's continue to use them. Ash, over to you.
Maribel, you got me so lit. I'm like, we not only do we have it in English and Spanish, not only did you have it before it was go time on Saturday, you now get access to this card in 10 different languages. And yo, like what I also know, because I've been around the country a little bit, is that there are folks that are doing this incredible community defense work all over the country. So I promise you, if you are pissed off about ICE, like y'all, I saw people in small towns with big turnouts saying, like, going bazonkers in the crowd when people said absolutely no to disappearing our neighbors, absolutely no to ICE in these communities, absolutely no to criminalizing race and putting our people in harm's way, ripping apart families. I saw you get hyped about this issue, and you're right. Fighting against that is non-cooperation with this tyrannical wannabe king. So I want you to Google search and see if there's a community organization near you that is doing this sacred work. I want you to get involved with them. I want you to support them. And I want you to make sure you got these Know Your Rights cards and you're spreading them around because that is the gospel that we still have a right to protest in this country and we're going to defend it. We're going to defend it for all of our people, especially the folks with the most risk. So thank you, Maribel, for being here and keeping us safe while we do that. All right, folks, in just a second, just a couple more minutes, I'm going to turn the spotlight back on to you. I hope you can leave tonight feeling yourselves and seeing yourselves. And I'm going to close by sharing some of the stories from across the country. But to build that bridge of widespread relational organizing, I want to bring on Jiggy Geronimo, who's going to talk about building a culture of defiance. Jiggy, you're up.
Thank you, Ash. And hello, beautiful people. I just want to say, I hope I saw you all out in the streets, and the energy this weekend was absolutely incredible. And seeing the video at the beginning of just the seas of people flooding the streets in cities all over the world was like a shot of adrenaline right into my veins. It's so easy to watch the news and just feel so alone, but knowing that there's at least, because there's lots of people who agree with us who didn't show up, at least 7 million people who want a better America is just incredibly cathartic and relieving. And so, what we did this weekend is we also took it straight to their narrative and disrupted it. The Trump administration desperately wanted a narrative of chaos and disorder because they want a pretext to crack down and invoke the Insurrection Act and come after us. But the vibes this weekend were immaculate, y'all. I could see the inspiration from our friends on the ground in Portland who have been demonstrating how to turn the opposition's narrative upside down for several weeks now. I saw joy. I saw fun. I saw song. I saw dance. I saw marching bands. I saw costumes. I saw humor. I saw mockery. All of that was beautiful. And it's just really hard to paint Americans exercising their right to free speech through song and dance and inflatable costumes as violent domestic terrorists. So bravo to all of us. But so in the wake of any like big successful event like this, people are going to ask, what did we accomplish and what's next, right? That's why we're having this call. So I want to start a little bit with what we accomplished, because what we know from political scientists who have studied authoritarianism around the world is that mass mobilizations are important, but they are one tool in our toolbox, and they do accomplish a few things, right? Firstly, they are a symbolic demonstration of the size of the opposition. And some people might question, I'm sure you're seeing on social media, right, the utility of symbolic actions, but they are really important in challenging authoritarian narratives, right? Trump would like us to believe that we're just a handful of people, but everybody loves him. But 7 million people in the streets in, again, the most peaceful protest in American history paints a very different picture and directly counters that narrative. They also create good vibes and social proof. Social proof is basically the FOMO effect, right? It's this social phenomenon where you tend to do things because you feel like other people like you, your friends, your family are doing them too. And so it's one of the most powerful drivers of human behavior. And so when we get 7 million people out, we send a message like, hey, this is what we're all doing. We're all defying, we're all protesting this regime. And importantly, they provide an entry point for people to join our movement because we need to grow. It's so important when facing authoritarianism for people to be able to find the like-minded people in their community to actually build movement with. There is no defeating fascism without very serious community building. And so that's why having these events in every community is so important so that people can find their people. And we need to find our people if we are going to free America from fascism, because we are in the early stages of this fight. I know that the past 10 months have felt like a decade, but this is the very, very beginning. We are just getting started. And so we have to remember that right now we have to focus on growing, organizing ourselves. We have to fight like hell to make sure that we actually have free and fair elections in the future. And we have to defy and disrupt the actions of this regime so that we can slow down all of the harms that they're inflicting on our community. So like I said, mobilizations are necessary, but they're one tool in the toolbox. And so what we know from anti-authoritarian researchers is that a mass civil resistance taking sustained collective action over time is necessary. People are throwing around that 3.5% a lot. And that doesn't mean we get 3.5% of people to magically show up in the streets for one day and then magically fascism disappears in this country. That's not how this works, right? We need sustained collective action that disrupts the regime. And so in other countries that have defeated fascism, this has meant expanding the toolbox beyond mobilizations to include building alternative structures and engaging in mass non-cooperation so that we can refuse to engage in the systems and activities that are perpetuating harm and allowing authoritarianism to thrive. And we have examples that we can look at right here in America, right? We saw a prime example during the civil rights movement. The famous Montgomery bus boycott required people to refuse to partake in the system, refuse to take the bus. They had to build mutual aid through coordinated alternative carpool systems to support those who were boycotting and to cause that economic pain. In Guatemala, just 2 years ago, authoritarian forces tried to hold on to power despite the will of the people in an election, and indigenous leaders in that country led thousands of Guatemalans to leave work in order to have enough economic leverage to enforce the outcome of the election. And there are countless other examples of other countries that are strategically interfering with the pillars that uphold authoritarianism through all different types of non-cooperation tactics. As we mentioned, boycotts, collective bargaining, walkouts, refusing to collaborate with the regime. So we are not the first to face fascism. We have lots of other examples that we can learn from. But I do have to be real with you that this type of work is new in our toolbox, and the American public needs to learn all of these new tactics. And we're going to need to be able to leverage these types of tactics at scale, en masse, if we are going to free America from rising fascism. So how do we get there? How do we get to mass defiance? There's a lot to say and a lot to do on that. But I want to take us and focus on one thing right now that literally every single one of us can do every single day from the comfort of our own homes. And that is to help to shape the narrative to build a culture of defiance. AKA, we basically need to make resistance cool so that people, one, want to join our movement, and two, people get socialized to these new and different tactics to fight authoritarianism. So what does that look like? What do we do to shape the narrative? We are all online. We are all scrolling. We are all posting, right? We are all in what we post and what we share every day, shaping the narrative. And so we can change the things that we share, the stories we tell, so that we can bring people into our movement. So firstly, people need to understand that we are indeed living under authoritarianism. If we want them to take new types of actions, they need to realize that we are not living in the normal times. And so that means sharing the types of stories that make that reality clear. Some of the horrifying ICE abductions, the military deployments, the free speech violations. There is no deficit of examples of the fascism that is on full display here. And the more that we share that, the more that we share that reality with people and people can understand the stakes. Secondly, people need to feel the impacts personally. And so that means sharing the real ways that everyday people are hurting. Lisa already talked about the impacts from the shutdown, the skyrocketing costs, the healthcare premiums that are going to skyrocket on November 1st, farms, hospitals shutting down. As time goes on, more and more people are going to see and feel the painful reality of fascism, and we need to be ready to catch them and channel that anger into action. Third, we have to be ready to place blame on any and all who capitulate and support the regime and use our collective power to hold them accountable. And Ezra already mentioned the example of Jimmy Kimmel. When ABC canceled Jimmy Kimmel, 1.7 million Americans canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions within a couple of days. And within a week, Disney lost nearly $5 billion and reversed course because money talks. They met our demands and they reinstated Kimmel's show. So this is a perfect example of how people power can hold those who capitulate accountable. And then finally, I already said social proof is one of the most important drivers of human behavior. So if we want people to join our movement, they need to see other people taking action. They need to feel like everybody's doing this. Their social feed needs to be flooded with content showcasing the resistance so that they look out on their feed and they say, wait, there's this mass movement against fascism happening. I better join that too. Everybody I know is doing it. And so this is where you come in, right? Every single day, you can share your story. You can share your perspectives on what is happening. You can help to amplify the stories of the resistance. So share your photos and videos from No Kings. Right after this call, go do that. You can give your takes on what's happening in the world. Share videos of your neighbors as they chase ICE out of their neighborhoods. Share clips of inflatable frogs showing us the joy of resistance. Share the articles of state and local actors that are stepping up. They're enacting ICE-free zones. They're protecting the communities and providing for their communities when the government fails. There's no deficit of people fighting back against fascism in this country. People are just not seeing it. And they're much more likely to trust it if they see it and hear it from someone they know. So obviously, while we are just getting started and we have a very long way to get to mass defiance, we have 7 million people who just raised their hand and moved their bodies into the streets to fight back. And so, to keep the momentum going, as we already mentioned, No Kings is going to be sending out weekly rapid response calls to action. And whatever the moment requires, we're going to adapt. So, these might be in-person actions, they might be economic pressure campaigns, they might be digital narrative actions. So, stay tuned, and we'll have something for you every week. And I will just leave you with this. Authoritarianism does not stand alone. It survives on silence, complicity, and cash flow. And we have the numbers and the power. And so together, if we keep this momentum, we can make it impossible for anyone in power, in profit, or in denial to capitulate. And that is the task ahead of us. And back to you, Ash.
Jiggy just dropped the mic on us real smooth, like there's something you can do. There's plenty you can do, and you can do it every week. And No Kings is gonna come together, and we're gonna make sure that you've got it. Y'all show some love for Jiggy. Folks have been saying they miss you on the Freedom from Fascism briefings and on Blue Sky. Jiggy, you're getting a lot of love. Thank you for making it digestible what can be done in this moment. So many of us feel so overwhelmed by all the different attacks on our people that are coming from this administration and their ilk. And so if you feel overwhelmed, I hope this call, this gift that Jiggy just gave us, made it a little bit more digestible what you can do from right where you are by being a trustworthy source of information about what's happening around the country, by posting what you're doing, right? By coming together and saying that we've had enough, doing non-cooperation in our neighborhoods. This is our moment, y'all. I'm so excited to be following the leadership of people like Jiggy. Thank you for being here. So I hope you're feeling fired up. But before we cover the next steps again, before I run it down, I want to offer a little storytelling. Can we have a little like story time with Ash for a second? Because I want to honor some of the stories and powerful moments that came out this past weekend. And I want to thank the incredible folks that have staffed No Kings that have gotten these stories written up and given to me so I can share them with you. I know that we already shared with you the video at the top, but folks, that's not even half. That, like, you don't even know that there's so much more. There's so much more from the stories that you've sent us. So what I'm about to share are still just a teeny tiny number of the people who rep this movement and the stories you all brought to life on October 18th. To honor and tell them all would be impossible in the time we've got allotted for this call, but we hope you take a moment to see yourself, to see yourselves, right? This community of people who are coming together under this banner in this teeny tiny slice that I'm about to cover. Let's start at the center of the country. In Kansas City, Missouri, 20,000 people, almost 4% of the city population, a group spanning veterans and educators, elders who have been marching since the March on Washington, people in unicorn costumes, and so much more, came together in defiance of authoritarianism. Their rally featured Samantha Jo Datto and Korea Kelly from Promo and the Trans Women of Color Collective, Ashton Botts from Abortion Action Missouri, and so many other speakers and fighters from the front lines. And then just up the road in Platte City, where only 20 people turned out on June 15th, 550 community members came out this weekend. Then we're going to go across the country. In San Francisco, we were honored to have the legendary scholar and activist Angela Davis grace the stage. And just as honored to have Laura Kiswani, my homegirl, my sister, my colleague of the Arab Resource and Organizing Center. Cleve Jones was there from the Movement for LGBTQIA Rights. We thank these speakers and all the others for the connections that they made between the fight for justice in California to Gaza, from ACT UP to Skermeti, across movements and back again. And since I'm talking about California, why not celebrate it? Yeah, we had celebrities in the house, whether you're a Pedro Pascal girly or a Kerry Washington stan like me, or maybe a millennial who loves Lance Bass because that's a throwback fan. We had all these folks and so many more folks that are our artists, our artivists, our culture bearers, voices for our community showing up and showing out. You love to see it. And then in Chicago, in the Windy City, where over 250,000 people, 250,000 of you took over Grant Park and led a march 2 miles long. We had surprise visits from our stalwart electeds like the incredible Mayor Brandon Johnson. But we also heard from on the ground organizing leaders like Juliet de Jesus Alejandre from Palenque SNA, LSNA, whose powerful poem spoke to the strength of deportation defense and rapid response networks that have wrapped their arms around the city of Chicago as these kidnappers, these ICE agents have descended on our communities here. This next one is personal to me. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, my hometown, the town I was born in, over 2,000 people came out to declare that Appalachians don't lick boots and that ICE belongs in sweet tea, not in Tennessee. Folks, we know that southern states like my home state of Tennessee have been learning how to organize and resist against fascism long before November of 2024. There were at least 38 events in my great state, estimating 53,000 people from ruby red small towns to blue cities threatened by redistricting. Shout out to Indivisible Tennessee. And shout out to the folks in Memphis who are right now fighting with everything they've got against the occupation, the deployment of the National Guard to where they are. So for the Free the 901 folks, we also see you and we love you. And shout out to my other friends from across the Deep South. Y'all know I love my people. There are so many stories that we could tell. But one thing we'll highlight just for a little levity took place in Fairhope, Alabama. This one's funny. Only a very small handful of arrests happened in Fairhope, where a woman in a costume, I'll leave to your imagination, was arrested for lewd conduct because her costume accompanied a sign that said, quote, "No dictator," end quote. I'll leave that to your imagination. Now let's travel from the Deep South to the far north. Let's go to Alaska, where a majority indigenous village with a population of about 3,000, 28 people showed up, even though they were in the middle of some snow. And we want to send some big love to our comrades in another part of the state, the folks in Western Alaska who have been experiencing and surviving the destruction from a typhoon. Precisely the type of weather event that's becoming more and more common as corporations and the wealthy refuse to make changes to protect our climate. We give a special shout out, some real special love to our indigenous members of the No Kings movement who fought the first round of authoritarianism and everyone to follow that as soon as it arrived to these shores, as well as all residents of rural and more isolated communities who are experiencing the brunt of harm from this government shutdown. We see you, we are you, we love you. And then let's go to Washington, D.C. We heard history lessons. We heard righteous humor and powerful testimony from people who we love, organizers and activists who put it all on the line for us, like Afeni Evans, journalist Mehdi Hassan, and leaders of the Free DC movement and Harriet's Wildest Dreams. Nene, we see you. Thank you to our friends in the Capitol who are holding down this resistance movement right on Trump's freaking doorstep, right? Because what we know is that if they can criminalize protests there, they're going to criminalize it everywhere. We see you fighting the occupation. We see you fighting for home rule, and we got your back. Now let's time travel across the country again. We're going to go to a place where our movement turned out on Saturday and overcame all sorts of barriers in order to do so. This is in White Plains, where a group of senior citizens at an assisted living center in White Plains organized a No Kings for Seniors event where roughly 350 people showed up. They ranged in age from 2 years old to 102 years old. That's how widely people understand that what's happening in this moment ain't right. Now we're going to go to Fort Worth, Texas. Not even pouring rain could stop those 8,000 people from turning out to say that we see this administration for what it is and we will not stand for rising fascism. Fort Worth, we see you. And sometimes these obstacles took a different tone. In Lakeland, Florida, and elsewhere, you told us that the Proud Boys showed up and they threatened you. And they tried to intimidate your movement. But your well-trained peacekeeping teams de-escalated them, kept the crowd safe. Let me say it once again, folks. These aren't just skills that matter on the day of the mobilization. This isn't symbolic what we've trained to do. These were skills that we loaded up because they are ways that we can work together, we can build together, and weave together the day-to-day work of peaceful protest against authoritarianism alongside these mass visible moments of protest. You put in the work to build in your communities, and you're going to feel the fruits of that labor in the days, the weeks, the months, the years of our work ahead. We see you. Thank you to our loved ones in Florida. And that work changed minds in the moment. There were over 40 events across the state of Indiana, from Gary to Columbus and beyond, including LaGrange, Indiana, where the host reported, quote, 9 people came up to stop us. I talked to them and they all said they expected fires. This was a hate America crazy leftist burn the town down. And then realized they were being lied to. 2 videoed the bubbles and smiles and sent with messages that they're being lied to. It was really great, end quote. Folks, these events are not just connecting those who are with us already. They're changing the narrative for those who still need to wake up to a different path forward for our country. I'm running out of time, but let me rattle off some more. Atlanta, y'all showed out. Stacey Abrams, Senator Raphael Warnock, my brother, Dom Kelly from the New Disabled South. So many other leaders, from the nationally known to the locally beloved, on the stage in Atlanta. In New York City, our culture bears like Dred Scott from the Fall for Freedom artist movement joined Chet Osei and Maya Wiley and over 350,000 people in the streets, y'all. 700 in Mountainside, New Jersey, 400 in Trumansburg, New York, a town of 1,500 people. That's a quarter of their population. 16,000 in Milwaukee, 2,800 in Northfield, Minnesota. Anecdotally, the largest protest ever held in Culpeper, Virginia. And last but not least, in Beckley, West Virginia, Kendra Sullivan staged a one-woman No Kings action. Y'all didn't hear me. I'm going to say it one more time. In Beckley, West Virginia, Kendra Sullivan, shout out to Kendra Sullivan, who staged a one-woman No Kings action. People confronted her. They called the cops on her. They physically threatened her, but she stayed. And she stood up for what she believed in. Kendra, we are with you. So with that, my friends, knowing that there are infinitely more, let's talk about what's next. In a moment, I'm going to have links and next steps and all that jazz. You're going to get them in the follow-up to this call. But what I want to talk about first is the call to action that I can't share a link or a form for you to fill out, or a toolkit or an Instagram post or a known day of action to get to you. That's because it's the work of tracking within your own community to identify where and how you can mitigate harm, where you can protect the most vulnerable, where you can show up for each other, where you can build power. Some of the answer about what's next is dependent on you. I know so many of you are already doing this. You're already a part of the ICE Rapid Response Defense Networks. You do the mutual aid work. Some of you who live in sanctuary cities have local governments that have taken lawful steps of non-cooperation, like refusing to cooperate with the federal government and violating the rights of your community members. You're fighting the deployment of National Guard to your city. Again, shout out to Memphis, shout out to DC, shout out to LA, shout out to folks in New Orleans and Portland and others. Shout out to those of you that are pushing your governors not to send them from your state to another city. That's important work too. You're helping communities feel safe in their workplaces and schools and faith communities. That's what we've got to keep doing to weave together the work of protest and non-cooperation and mutual aid and building alternatives in between these big moments of mobilization. You're building big tent coalitions locally with folks of goodwill who believe in our demand, no kings. It can look a lot of different ways. And you all know what's best for where you are, working within the context of the communities you call home. At the end of the day, this is a movement made and led by each and every one of us in our own communities. When you ask what's next, I want you to remember you hold so much power to answer that question. And that with each other and with the folks that you were in the streets with on October 18th, we can land that plane. A big part of that is you start telling your No King story. You heard Jiggy say it. Gather your photos, write up a short story. Tell them what it was like to be there and the work that you did. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just had to happen. Share it on social movement, on your social media. Send the text messages, send the emails. Write a letter to your grandmother. Be loud, be visible. Extend the energy of this moment so that folks beyond our 7 million, the folks that couldn't come because they had to work or were sick, that someone in your community, probably a lot of people in your community, are showing up and they're saying that it doesn't have to be this way. Which side are you on? Are you on the side of America that is not for all of us? Or are you trying to build a beloved community where all of us can live in safe and healthy and sustainable communities? We can demand a better future, and we can get ready to bring it to our people by being active in this next phase of work. So first, I want you to tell the story. I want you to tell the story. I want you to share this video. I want you to share the calls to action. I want you to tell the story about how impactful No Kings was for you. Next up, let me reiterate some of what Maribel said. This is a key moment to continue spreading Know Your Rights and deportation defense information, training, action. Go to nokings.org/KYR for Know Your Rights. nokings.org/KYR. We're building out resources and support structures for you so you can get connected to local ICE defense where you live, and you can build out community networks of care and protection. Together, we will say that when they come for us, they come for all of us. And we will protect our neighbors and each other. And next, you heard Ezra say that we were launching, that we were launching the No Kings Alliance. And as an alliance, we are making a commitment to each and every single one of you that we're going to keep these actions coming. I promise you, we're going to make sure that they are vetted and that you can do meaningful interactions that stop the consolidation of this authoritarian threat. We don't know when the next Kimmel moment is going to happen or the next redistricting fight. What we know is that we can be ready to catch that lightning in a bottle when the next national rapid response moment happens. We can trust that when it comes, it's going to come fast and furious. And now we have 7 million people. We are 7 million stronger to fight back when it does. And although I don't have all the specifics for you yet, I want to ask you now to go to nokings.org/next. And I want you to bookmark that page. Do it right now. Go to nokings.org/next, NEXT. Bookmark that page. Because as you heard, every Wednesday, the No Kings Alliance is going to be updating it with the current, most strategic, nationwide, active, mass non-cooperation and resistance actions you can get. And if you're not already integrated, if you haven't already joined a political home, a long-term organizing and base building powerhouse, this is going to be a place where you can land. This is going to be a home base for you while we work to weave and integrate locally after No Kings Day. Now, speaking of political homes, I want to shout out a couple final upcoming days of action that our movement partners are leading that I encourage every single one of us to jump on. I'm saying these out loud, but the links will be in the follow-up email and posted in the YouTube description after this call is over. First, I don't want you to forget what Lisa already covered with the healthcare heist actions. And I know we moved really quickly, but you can see which side? This side. You can see this QR code right here. Yeah. I want you to actually take your camera out, get that QR code real quick. It's really important. This fall, as I mentioned earlier, and as you heard Lisa say, 22 million people are going to see their healthcare premiums double. And I don't know about you, but I don't know how many of us are going to be able to sustain that, right? And 4.2 million people are going to lose their coverage altogether, all to fund billionaire tax cuts. And you have an option, an opportunity right now to join the Economic Security People's National Week of Action for our moment to unite, expose who's responsible, and demand better. Y'all, I hear Jonah from Public Citizen in my head being like, all we have to do is show up at our senators or representatives' offices. That's all we have to do. We have to show up And we've got to demand that they restore health care for millions of Americans and do it soon. That's it. That's all this call to action is requiring. And y'all, I hear Jonah in my head telling us that if we do that, we really could win. We really could win healthcare for all of our people. So I want to remind you that that link is going to be in the follow-up email for you to sign up to host or to go and attend. They also have a movement call tomorrow, October 22nd. So be on the lookout for the email so you can get on that call. Also on October 22nd is our movement call for the Disappeared in America Weekend of Action. You might see some familiar faces there if you're planning on attending that call tomorrow. From protests at Home Depots to vigils outside detention centers, including the folks that have been protesting weekly at Alligator Alcatraz in Florida, to Day of the Dead events, honoring and celebrating the lives of our people who have been lost to detention and deportation. Thousands of us are going to take action together to say that we will not be silent as families are disappeared, as people's rights are dismantled, and democracy itself is threatened. And last but certainly not least, this upcoming week on October 23rd, for all the folks that have been hitting me up on socials being like, Ashley, we got to say something about voting rights. Ashley, we got to say something about voting rights. Yo, we totally agree. Now's the time not only to fight for voting rights, but also to prepare to defend and fight for as free and a fair election as we can get in this country, right? Now's the time. So this coming week on October 23rd, we're going to host the movement call for early vote day. It's a new civic holiday that's focused on helping every voter know how, where, and when. Every voter will know how, where, and when they can vote early. So make sure you save the date, October 23rd. My friends, once again, all of those links, every single one of those calls to action is going to be shared with you in the follow-up email and in the YouTube description after we're done tonight. And you'll be able to hear them again because this video is being recorded. I want to thank each and every one of you for being with us on Saturday. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here with us tonight. And I want to thank those of you who have already made a commitment. And maybe it's temporary or maybe it's a lifelong commitment to the hard work ahead. This movement is ready for what's next. I believe it in my bones. What I know is that you're going to leave this call, this place where we've created a sense of belonging and collectivity, and you're going to go and you're going to do these calls to action, and you're going to hear a lot of noise about maybe it's impossible to stop this authoritarian train from moving. But what we know is that we've been up against this fight before, and our elders and ancestors not only won, but they won with less resources than we've ever had access to. And what I know, because this was, again, the largest peaceful protest in American history, is that if we have already done impossible things, you cannot tell me that fighting to collectively save this country and the semblance of democracy here, that our ability to protect and defend our communities, our ability to make sure that democracy is accessible to all people is not a pipe dream. It is just something that we are going to have to work hard to get. And I believe in working hard. And I believe we're ready to do it. So I am so excited to see each and every one of you take these calls to action seriously. And we will see you in the streets. More to come. Take good care. Have a good night.